Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishakam Vitam Scha Om Ajnana Timarandasya Gyanajana Shalakya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gorva Bistam Sapurakam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govindabidam Ujwalam Bharatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwa Guruncha Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noe Bijapranam Devam Divyatanum Suchandavananam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyam Buddhim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shubhadam Madeka Sharanam Nyashishvara Shridaram Vanshakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. We're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad. Can you get a glass of water? This is Adi-lila, chapter 13, the advent of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I'll start with verse number 80. Thank you. Chodashattachaye shake seishamagamase Jagannatha Sachiradehe Krishnera Praveshe. In the month of January, in the year 1406 of the Shaka era, that's AD 1485, so the year is 1485. Lord Krishna entered the bodies of both Jagannath Mishra and Sachi. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his birth in the year 1407 Shaka era, which is 1486 AD, in the month of Falgun. But here we see that he entered the bodies of his parents in the year 1406 in the month of Magh. Therefore the Lord entered the bodies of his parents 13 full months before his birth. Generally, a common child remains within the womb of his mother for 10 lunar months, but here we see that the Lord remained within the body of his mother for 13 months. So somebody could say, well, I thought it's nine months that a woman's pregnant. But here we're speaking of lunar months. We're not talking of solar months. Mishra kohe sachistani deki Anarita Jyotirmoy Deho Geha Lakmi Adishtita. Jagannath Mishra said to Sachimata, I see wonderful things. Your body is effulgent, and it appears as if the goddess of fortune were now staying personally in my home. So we can say from the time that Mahaprabhu entered into the body of Sachimata, it was 13 months until he appeared. Jagannath Mishra said to Sachimata, I see wonderful things. Your body is effulgent, and it appears as if the goddess of fortune were now staying personally in my home. Jahantahan sarvalo koraye saman gare pataya deya danabastradan. Anywhere and everywhere I go, all people offer me respect. Even without my asking, they voluntarily give me riches, clothing, and paddy. Paddy means rice. When the husk is still on the rice, it's called paddy. Then it's threshed and the grain is taken. Well, anywhere and everywhere I go, all people offer me respect, even without my asking. They voluntarily give me riches, clothing, and paddy. So people are giving me money. I'm not even asking for anything. A Brahmin does not become anyone's servant. To render service to someone else is the business of the Shudras. A Brahmin is always independent because he is a teacher, spiritual master, and advisor to society. The members of society provide him with all the necessities of life. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says he has divided society into 4 divisions: Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. A society cannot run smoothly without this scientific division. A Brahmin should give good advice to all the members of the society. A Kshatriya should look after the administration, maintaining law and order in society. Vaishyas should produce and trade to meet all the needs of society, whereas Shudras should render service to the higher sections of society, the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. Jagannath Mishra was a Brahmin, therefore people would send him all bodily necessities: money, cloth, grain, and so on. When Lord Chaitanya was in the womb of Sachimata, Jagannath Mishra received all these necessities of life without asking for them. Because of the presence of the Lord in his family, everyone offered him due respect as a Brahmin. In other words, if a Brahmin or Vaishnava sticks to his position as an eternal servant of the Lord and executes the will of the Lord, there is no question of scarcity for his personal maintenance or the needs of his family. So the business, here it's mentioned that that those persons who are more or less working, where is the comment about Shudras? A Brahmin does not become anyone's servant. To render service to someone else is the business of the Shudras. So we understand that people have to earn a living. So they have jobs, but really our business is not to become somebody's, to sell ourselves to other people. Sachiko he mui dekon akasha upare divya morte lok sab jena stuti kore. Sachimata told her husband, I see wonderfully brilliant human beings appearing in outer space as if offering prayers. Jagannath Mishra was honored by everyone on the earth and was supplied with all necessities. Similarly, Mother Sachi saw many demigods in outer space offering prayers to her because of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's presence in her womb. If the Lord is present there, then obviously the goddess of fortune, who's the eternal consort of the Lord, she's going to be present. So why would naturally, he doesn't have to worry about earning a living. Jagannath Mishra kohe swapna jay dekila jyotirmoy dhamamora hridaye pashila. Jagannath Mishra then replied, in a dream I saw the effulgent abode of the Lord enter my heart. Amara hridaye hoite gela tomara hridaye Hena buje janmi bena kona mahashaye. From my heart and entered your heart. I therefore understand that a great personality will soon take birth. Eta bole du hero he harashita haya shalagrama seva kore vishesha korea. After this conversation, both husband and wife were jubilant, and together they rendered service to the household Shalagram Shila. Oh, the Shalagram Shila, the presence of the Lord in their house. Brahmins would worship the Shalagram Shila, their Brahmin family. So they understand that great personality is going to take birth, Sachimata and Jagannath Mishra, and they're worshiping the Lord in their house. Hoite hoite hoila garba Trayadashamas Tatapi Bhumista Nahe Misrera Hoilatras. In this way, the pregnancy approached its 13th month, but still there was no sign of the delivery of the child. Thus, Jagannath Mishra became greatly apprehensive. Nilambar Chakravarti Kohila Ganiya Emase Putra Habe Shubha Khan Paya. Nilambar Chakravarti, the grandfather of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then did an astrological calculation and said that in that very month, taking advantage of an auspicious moment, the child would take birth. Choda Shata Shata Shake Mashaje Fagun Purnamashir Sandhya Kale Hoile Shubhakan. Thus in the year 1407 of the Shaka era, in the month of Falgun, February, March, in the evening of the full moon day, the desired auspicious moment arrived. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya has provided the horoscope of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The explanation of the horoscope given by Bhaktivedanta Thakur is that at the time of the birth of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the planets were situated as follows. Shukra, Venus was in the Mesha Rashi, Aries, and the Nakshatra, lunar mission, the lunar mansion of Ashvini. So Venus is in Aries and in the Nakshatra lunar mansion of Ashvini. Ketu, the ninth planet, was in Simha Rasi, Leo, and Uttara Falguni. Chandra, the moon, was in Purva Falguni, the 11th lunar mansion. Shani, Saturn, was in Vrishchika Rasi, Scorpio, and Jeshta. Brihaspati, Jupiter, was in Dhanurati, Sagittarius, and Purvashada. Mangala, Mars, was in Makar Rashi, Capricorn, and Shravan. Ravi, the sun, was in Kumbha Rasi, Aquarius, and Purva Bhadrapad. Rahu was in Purva Bhadrapad, and Bud, Mercury, was in Meena Rashi, Pisces, and Uttara Bhadrapad. The Lagna was in Simha. So this is I'm not so versed in astrology, but this is the description given by Bhaktivedanta Thakur. Simarashi, Simalagna, Uchagrahagan, Shadvarga, Ashtavarga, Sarva Shulakan. According to the Jyotir Veda, or Vedic astrology, the auspicious birth moment is described as follows. The moon was in Leo, the figure of the lion in the zodiac. Leo was the ascendant. Several planets were strongly positioned, and the Shadvarga and Ashtavarga showed all auspicious influences. Ekalanka Gorachandra Dila Narashan Sakalanka Chandre Ara Kon Prayojan. When the spotless moon of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became visible, what would be the need for a moon full of black marks on its body? Etajani Rahu Koila Chandra Grahan Krishna Krishna Hariname Base Tribhuvan. Considering this, Rahu, the black planet, covered the full moon, and immediately vibrations of Krishna Krishna Hari inundated the three worlds. So then at the time of Mahaprabhu's appearance, it's a full moon night, but there's a lunar eclipse. So, and it says, it's described here, the moon has spots on it, and those people who look at the moon, they see dark marks on the moon, and they even, I think they call it Shashidar or something like that, which means the rabbit sometimes they see the image of a rabbit on the moon. But here it's described, since the moon has pock marks on it, what would be the need of a moon when Mahaprabhu, who is spotless, is appearing? So the moon is a figurative way of saying the moon is eclipsed by Rahu. Considering this, Rahu, the black planet, covered the full moon immediately. Vibrations of Krishna, Krishna, Hari inundated the three worlds. And this also, even though it's an eclipse, because it's an eclipse, everyone is chanting the holy name. So when Mahaprabhu is appearing, he's accompanied by Mahasankirtan, by chanting of the holy names going on everywhere. Jaya Jaya Dwani Hoila Sakala Bhuvan Chamatkara Hoya Lok Bhave Mane Man. All people thus chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra during the lunar eclipse, and their minds were struck with wonder. Jagat Bari Yalok Bole Hari Hari Sekane Gora Krishna Bhume Avatari. When the whole world was thus chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna in the form of Gora Hari invented himself on the earth. Prasana Hoila Sab Jagataraman Hari Boli Hinduke Hasya Koraye Javan. The whole world was pleased. While the Hindus chanted the holy name of the Lord, the non-Hindus, especially the Muslims, jokingly imitated the words. So they say, oh, the Hindus are chanting and the Muslims making fun of them, but they're also chanting. Hari Boli Narigan De Hula Huli Svarge Vadya Nritya Kore Deva Kutuholi. While all the ladies vibrated the holy name of Hari on earth, and the heavenly planets dancing and music were going on, for the demigods were very curious. And so it says, it's translated here, while all the ladies vibrated the holy name of Hari on earth, and the heavenly planets dancing and music were going on, for the demigods were very curious. So this is the way the translation is given, but actually what's being described here is the ladies are doing hula huli, which is not chanting, it's the moving of the tongue from one side of the mouth to the other. So in Bengal, that's a very auspicious sound, and the ladies are doing that, like in the temple, when they're doing arti, then they're offering all the different, so many different articles to the Lord. And when they offer the lamp, then all the ladies start making that sound, that hula huli. You know. So I think they translate that as udulating or something like that. And they go, woo, that sound. Okay, but you see them, their tongues are going sideways. While all the ladies vibrated the holy name of Hari on earth, in the heavenly planets dancing and music were going on, for the demigods were very curious. Prasana hoiladash dik, prasana nadija, stavara jangama hoila, anande viva. In this atmosphere, all the 10 directions became jubilant, as did the waves of the rivers. Moreover, all beings moving and non-moving were overwhelmed with transcendental bliss. So now we begin with these very beautiful poetic verses of the description of Mahaprabhu's appearance. And this is what they sing on Gaur Purnima. So,
oh, nice.
I don't know, are they in there?
Yeah, they are. I'm finding page 272.
276.
Okay. Nadia Udayagiri Purna Chandra Gora Hari Kripa Kori Hoila Uday Papatama Hoilanas Tri Jagatera Ulas Jagabari Hari Dwani Hoy. Thus, by his causeless mercy, the full moon, Gorahari.
Verse 98.
Oh,
Verse 98.
okay. Thus, by his causeless mercy, the full moon, Gorahari, rose in the district of Nadia, which is compared to Udayagiri, where the sun first becomes visible. His rising in the sky dissipated the darkness of sinful life, and thus the three worlds became joyful and chanted the holy name of the Lord. Sekale Nijaloi Utiya Advaitarai Nrityakori Anandita Mane Harida Seloya Sange Hunkara Kirtana Range Keninache Keho Nahijane. At that time, Sri Advaita Charya Prabhu, in his own house at Shantipur, was dancing in a pleasing mood. Taking Haridas Thakur with them, he danced and loudly chanted Hare Krishna. But why they were dancing, no one could understand. Deki uparaga hasi shigra ganga gate ashi anande korila ganga snan payo uparaga chale apanara mano bole brahmanare dila nanadan. Sing the lunar eclipse and laughing, Advaita Charya and Haridas Thakur immediately went to the bank of the Ganges and bathed in the river in great jubilation. Because the eclipse is going on, they're bathing in the Ganges. Taking advantage of the occasion of the lunar eclipse, Advaita Charya, by his mental strength, distributed various types of charity to the Brahmins. Jagatanandamoy, Dekimani Savishmoy, Taretore Kohe Haridas, Tomarai Chanaranga Moramana Parasana, Deki Kichu Karye Achebas. When he saw that the whole world was jubilant, Haridas Thakur, his mind astonished, directly and indirectly expressed himself to Advaita Charya. Your dancing and distributing charity are very pleasing to me. I can understand that there is some special purpose in these actions. Acharya Ratna Shrivas, Hoilamane Shukalas, Jai Snana Koila Ganga Jale, Anande Vivalaman, Kore Hari Sankirtan, Nanadana Koila Manobole. And Govindamar sings this very beautifully.
You do very nice, Maharaj. I like it.
Acharya Ratna, Chandrasekhar, and Srivas Thakur were overwhelmed with joy, and immediately they went to the bank of the Ganges to bathe in her waters. Their minds full of happiness, they chanted the Hare Krishna mantra and gave charity by mental strength. So, Navadip is right. The Ganges is right there, and everyone can go to the Ganges. It's a lunar eclipse, so everyone goes to bathe in the Ganges, and they're all chanting the holy names. Because normally you would think, one would consider that an eclipse is inauspicious. Rahu is like covering the moon. That's not considered auspicious. But this is Mahaprabhu's appearance. And this is also to cause everyone to bathe in the Ganges and chant the holy name. So it's a very auspicious. Even though it's an eclipse, it's to get Mahaprabhu's advent and everyone's chanting kirtan. Emata bhakta tati jaraje deshe stiti tahan bhaya manobole nache kore sankirtan anande vivalaman dana kore grahanera chale. In this way, all the devotees, wherever they were situated, in every city and every country, danced, performed sankirtan, and gave charity by mental strength on the plea of the lunar eclipse, their minds overwhelmed with joy. So it's lunar eclipse, and here it says in every country. So the description of every country, let's see, it should say Desh. No, that's Don is giving charity.
It says Desh that Jar J Desh is Titi.
Where? Yeah, Jarad J Deshi Stiti. So India consists of many deshas. And they speak so many in each state. Practically, they speak a different language. Even Bengal and Oriya they're almost the same language, but they're written differently and spoken a little differently. They understand each other's language, but they're written differently. Oriyan is different than Bengali, although Oryans can understand Bengalis. But then there are other states where they speak entirely different languages, and those are called deshas, and a desh, and that's translated as country. So that's within India. But also where we live, obviously this is another desh. We're in the West. But here it says, in this way, all the devotees, wherever they were situated, in every city, in every country, danced, performed Sankirtan, and gave charity by mental strength. On the plea of the lunar eclipse, their minds overwhelmed with joy. Brahmana sajjana nari, nanadravye talibari, Aila sabe jyotika loya, Jaina kansha shona duty, deki bala kera murti, Ashirbada kori sukapaya. All sorts of respectable Brahmin gentlemen and ladies, carrying plates filled with various gifts, came with their presentations, seeing the newborn child, whose form resembled natural glaring gold. All of them happily offered their blessings. They're all coming and they're bringing gifts. To Mahaprabhu has just appeared, and people are coming to see the newborn child and bringing gifts for the child and his mother. This is very, very auspicious. So, and here it's mentioned Ashirbad, and sometimes you'll see in temples, you'll see the deity. Deity is like this. And that means offering Ashirbad. Here we have, we had Gandharvika. She's offering to Krishna. But in temples, sometimes you'll see the deity with the right hand. Is it the right hand? Well, one hand is raised like this. That means offering Ashirbad. That's offering benedictions or blessings. Savitri Gore Saraswati Sachi Ramba Arundati Arajata Devanarigan Nanadravye Patrabori Brahmanera Beshadori Ashisabe Kori Dharashan. Dressing themselves as the wives of Brahmins, all the celestial ladies, including the wives of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Nrsingadev, King Indra, and Vasishta Rishi, along with Ramba, a dancing girl of heaven, came there with varieties of gifts. Antarike Devagan, Gandharva Siddhacharan, Stuti Nritya Kore Vadya Gita, Nartaka Bhadaka Bhatta Navadive Charanata, Sabayashi Nache Paya Prita. In outer space, all the demigods, including the inhabitants of Gandharvaloka, Siddhaloka, and Charanaloka, offered their prayers and danced to the accompaniment of music, songs, and the beating of drums. Similarly, in Navadip city, all the professional dancers, musicians, and blessers gathered together, dancing in great jubilation. So they're also professional blessers. They just give blessings. Sometimes we see some form of that even in stoplights. Sometimes people will have a plate with some like kumkum or other thing on it, and they'll give the person blessing, and then that's their way of collecting.
That's funny. I got one of those. The banks of the Ganga, on Parikrama. John Boss is like, here, all right, now Taka, let's go.
So they're professional blessers. Keba she keba jai, keba nache keba gai, sambali te nare karabo. Kandileka Dukkha Shok Pramada Purita Lok Mishra Hoila Nande Bibo. But the professional blessers, they really can give blessings. You know, that's why they're in the profession.
Chiri Maharaj told me that Gurudev told him once that he said, I feel like those people sometimes, like these professional blessers. Like, devotees come and, Gurudev, can you bless me to do this and bless me to do that? And, like, you know, wave the chamar, sprinkle some Ganges water.
Gurudev does that.
He told that to Chiri Maharaj, and he felt like that sometimes.
Well, one time I was in Guadalajara, and it was this devotee named Vasudeva and his wife. They came to me. Actually, he was a musician, and he told me that he had been trying to have a child for a long time and was unsuccessful. So he asked me, can you give blessings to her? And I was thinking, what do I know about giving blessings for a child? So he said, all right, bring her. And I got some sweet rice from the deities, and I did some gestures and all that. and gave blessing, and I gave blessings. And then shortly after that, she became pregnant, and she had a child, and then later she had another child too. So I just figured, I'm not going to tell these people no. I'm not going to tell these people no. I'll just, all right. Okay, here you want this. Okay, this. Here, take this sweet rice. Okay, my blessings. But somehow or other it worked.
Well,
I didn't. I didn't know that. Anyway, Keva Ashe, Keva Jai, Keva Nache, Keva Gai, Sambali Tenare Karabo, Kandileka Dukkha Shok, Pramoda Purita Lok, Mishra Hoila Nande Bibo. No one could understand who was coming and who was going, who was dancing and who was singing, nor could they understand one another's language. Yet all unhappiness and lamentation were immediately dissipated, and people became all jubilant. Thus Jagannath Mishra was also overwhelmed with joy. And things don't depend on, communication doesn't depend just on language. Srila Govinda Maharaj used to talk about in Venezuela, do you remember what was his name? Srinivas. Srinivas was actually originally from Italy, and not just Italy. What's the part of Italy where the mafia? Sicily. He was from Sicily.
The gang members.
Yeah, but he was a very gentle man. But he lived in Venezuela, and he sometimes they would cook for the temple something like lasagna, but it wasn't lasagna. It was called pasticcia, and it was a nice casserole, and it was very tasty. And he spoke Spanish, but almost nobody could understand his Spanish. He spoke Spanish with a very heavy accent, and Srila Govinda Maharaj they would embrace, and Srinivas is very stout, very big. He is very, 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 very wide. And he would embrace, Govinda Maharaj would embrace him. And Govinda Maharaj said, I don't speak his language, and he doesn't speak my language, but we understand each other very well, he said, by heart-to-heart transmission. That's how he described it. So, No one could understand who was coming and who was going, who was dancing and who was singing, nor could they understand one another's language. Yet all unhappiness and lamentation were immediately dissipated, and people became all jubilant. Thus Jagannath Mishra was also overwhelmed with joy. So I'm reading also the Bengali. Somebody could say, why are you reading the Bengali? People don't understand Bengali. But I feel that just by hearing the Bengali, whether it's pronounced correctly or not all the time, I just like saying it, and I think it sounds very beautiful, and I think it's a very auspicious vibration. Acharya Ratna Srivas, Jagannatha Mishra Pas, Ashitare Koris, Savadan, Koraila Jadakarma, Jayachila Bididharma, Tabe Mishra Korinanadan, Chandrasekhar Acharya, and Srivas Thakur both came to Jagannath Mishra and drew his attention in various ways. They performed the ritualistic ceremonies prescribed at the time of birth according to religious principles. Jagannath Mishra also gave varieties of charity. Jyotika Pailajat Gareva Chilakat Sabadana Biprediladan Jatanartaka Gayana Bata Akinchana Jan Danadiya Koila Sabarman. Whatever riches Jagannath Mishra collected in the form of gifts and presentations, and whatever he had in his house, he distributed among the Brahmins, professional singers, dancers, bhattas, and the poor. He honored them all by giving them riches and charity. So the bhattas are the blessers.
They're called, huh?
Yeah, they go bhattas. Shivasara Brahmani Namataram Malini Acharya Ratner Patni Sange Sindura Haridra Toila Koi Kala Narikela Diya Puje Narigana Range. So, before I read the translation, I'll say what is koi, because it's here, koi. And puff rice is called muri. Yeah. That's puff rice. And koi is like puff rice, but it still has, the patty husk is still attached to it when it's puffed. And that makes it it's very soft. And when you soak it in milk, for instance, it becomes very soft. And Govindamar said that koi is very good, especially among people there are many older people in the mat, and many of them don't have teeth, or they don't have all their teeth. So the koi is very good for them, because the koi, when you soak it, it becomes very soft. Whereas the muri, not as much. So Govindamar said koi is good for old people without teeth, especially. The wife of Srivas Thakur, whose name was Malini, accompanied by the wife of Chandrasekhar, Acharya Ratna, and other ladies, came there in great jubilation to worship the baby with paraphernalia such as vermilion, turmeric, oil, fused rice, bananas, and coconuts. So that fused rice is koi. Advaita Charya Bharya Jagat Pujita Arya Namatara Sita Takurani Acharjara Agyabhaya Gelupa Haralaya Dekite Balak Shiromani. One day, shortly after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born, Advaita Charya's wife, Sita Devi, who is worshipable by the whole world, took her husband's permission and went to see that topmost child with all kinds of gifts and presentations. So this is Sita Thakurani, Advaita Charya's wife. Suvarnara Kari Boli Rajata Mudra Pashuli Suvarnara Angada Kankan Dubahute Dibya Shankar Rajatera Malabanga Swarna Mudrar Nana Haragan. She brought different kinds of golden ornaments, including armlets, necklaces, anklets, and bangles for the hands. So she's bringing golden ornaments, bracelets, and and necklaces and ankle bells or golden ankle bangles. Okay. Vyagranaka hemajari koti pata sutra dori hashtapader jata abaran chitrabarna pata sari buni photo pata padi swarna ropya mudra bahudan. There were also tiger nails set in gold, waist decorations of silk and lace, ornaments for the hands and legs, nicely printed silken saris, and a child's garment also made of silk. Many other riches, including gold and silver coins, were also presented to the child. Durvadanya Gorachan Haridra Kunkuma Chandan Mangaladravya Patraboriya Bastragupta Dolachari Sangeloya Dashichedi Bastralankar Petari Boria. Riding in a palanquin, covered with cloth and accompanied by maidservants, Sita Thakurani came to the house of Jagannath Mishra, bringing with her many auspicious articles, such as fresh grass, paddy, gorachan, turmeric, kumkum, and sandalwood. All these presentations filled a large basket. So this gorachan, that's a golden ornament for the cows. Here, we'll see. Let's see where you give a translation. Fresh grass, durva like kusha grass, danya rice paddy, that's the rice that's not been husked yet, gorachan, a yellow patch for the head of a cow. So she's giving saris for Sachi Matra and clothes for Mahaprabhu, nice silk clothes, even articles for the cows. Bhakya Boja Upahar Sange Loila Bahubar Sache Grihe Hoila Upanita Dekiya Balakatama Sakad Gokula Khan Marnamatra Deki Viparita. So Gokula Khan is like Krishna. When Sita Thakurani came to the house of Sachi Devi, bringing with her many kinds of eatables, dresses, and other gifts, she was astonished to see the newborn child, for she appreciated that except for a difference in color, the child was directly Krishna of Gokula himself. Sarva Anga Sunirman, Suvarna Pratimaban, Sarva Anga Sulakanamoy, Malakera Divya Jyoti, Deki Bhaila Bahupriti, Vatsajete Dravila Ridoi. So the previous chapters to this, they're all giving information and blessings, and that's the Mangala Charan is there, and then that let's see, the description for that word that I sometimes forget, but ontology. Guru Maharaj says the ontology, the background, all the information that you'll be able to utilize for understand Mahaprabhu's Leela. That's been given up till now, and now with this 13th chapter, this is the beginning of the actual Leela, you can say, of Mahaprabhu's appearance and his activities. And now we're in the Adi-lila. This has also been described by Vrindavan Das Thakur. But then when we get this is chapter 13. There's 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Those are the remaining chapters of the Adi-lila. Then we go to the Madhya-lila, and that also very important, because that's now giving the special presentation of Krishnadas Kaviraj, of the activities of Mahaprabhu in detail, which the devotees are very anxious to hear. So what's being described here, Mahaprabhu's birth, the beginning obviously of his Leela, his appearance, and also we can say Mahaprabhu in Navadip, he's his activities are described as Gaur Narayan. Gaur Narayan. Okay. Sarva Anga Shunirman, Suvarna Pratimaban, Sarva Anga Sulakanamoy, Malakera Dibya Jyoti, Deki Paila Bahupriti, Vatsal Jete, Dravila Ridoy. Sing the transcendental bodily effulgence of the child, each of his nicely constructed limbs, full of auspicious signs and resembling a form of gold. Sita Thakurani was very pleased, and because of her maternal affection, she felt as if her heart were melting. Durvadanya Dila Shirshe Koila Bahu Ashishe Chirajive How do we buy? Dakini Sankini Hoite Shankupa Jila Chite Dare Nama Toila Nimai. She blessed the newborn child by placing fresh grass and paddy on his head and saying, "May you be blessed with a long duration of life." But being afraid of ghosts and witches, she gave the child the name Nimai. And also because Mahaprabhu was born by a neem tree. There's a neem tree right at his appearance place. Dakini and Shankini are two companions of Lord Shiva and his wife who are supposed to be extremely inauspicious, having been born of ghostly life. It is believed that such inauspicious living creatures cannot go near a neem tree. At least medically, it is accepted that neem wood is extremely antiseptic, and formerly it was customary to have a neem tree in front of one's house. So, anyway, the neem tree is very auspicious, and ghosts and evil spirits will not go near a neem tree. And Mahaprabhu was born right by the neem tree, and so Sita Thakurani gives him the name Nimai. Very beautiful name, Nimai. Putra Mata Snana Dine Dila Bastra Bibhushane Putra Saha Mishare Samani Sachi Mishara Puja Hoya Manete Harisha Hoya Gariaila Sita Thakurani. Also very popular with devotees. They use that neem toothpaste. It's supposed to be good for the teeth. But anyway, she's given the name Nimai, very auspicious name. On the day the mother and son bathed and left the maternity home, so the child's not born in the house out of bamboo. They make a house in the backyard behind the house, and there the mother is with the child, and there she gives birth. And then after some days, the mother and the child are welcomed into the house. So that's the maternity room, and it can take care of the birth of the child in that room. Okay. Putramata snana dine dila bastu vibhushane putrasa mishare samani sachi mishra pujaloya manate harishahoya gariaila shita Thakurani. On the day the mother and son bathed and left the maternity home, Sita Thakurani gave them all kinds of ornaments and garments, and then also honored Jagannath Mishra. Then Sita Thakurani, being honored by Mother Sachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra, was greatly happy within her mind, and thus she returned home. Aiche Sachi Jagannath Putra Paya Lakminath Purna Hoila Sakala Banchita Danadanye Barigar Lokamanya Kolebar Dine Dine Hoya Nandita. In this way, Mother Sachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra, having obtained a son who was the husband of the goddess of fortune, had all their desires fulfilled. Their house was always filled with riches and grains. As they saw the beloved body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as they saw the beloved body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, day after day their pleasure increased. So they have the Lord in their house. Everything will be automatically arranged by the Lord's divine presence. Mishra Vaishnava Shanta Alampata Shuddhadanta Dhanabhoge Nahi Abhiman Putrara prabhave jata dhana ashi milidhata Vishnu prite dvije denadan. Jagannath Mishra was an ideal Vaishnav. He was peaceful, restrained in sense gratification, pure and controlled. Therefore, he had no desire to enjoy material opulence. Whatever money came because of the influence of his transcendental son, he gave it in charity to the Brahmins for the satisfaction of Vishnu. And I'm sure maybe if she wants, Vishaka can also comment, but as far as I'm concerned, I was never really concerned about my maintenance. Once I joined with the devotees, I was never concerned about my maintenance. I never was worried where I'm going to get clothes, where I'm going to get shoes, how I'm going to be taken care of. I was never concerned with that. If something happened where just by a natural arrangement everything was arranged, and usually was very nicely, fine. And if things weren't naturally arranged and sometimes there'd be some difficulties, that was also fine. Because I'm not asking for maintenance. I'm not asking for shelter. I'm not asking for anything. I'm trying to give my life to the service of Gurudev and to the devotees, to the service of the Lord. I'm trying, not always successfully, because we have our own natures, and sometimes our own tendencies can get in and interfere with devotion. But I try to push all these things aside,
yes,
and just depend on the Lord and His devotees.
Jai.
And you also the same way, right? Your life is like that. What other arrangement do you have? When I was going to school, I also thought, well, if I pursue a career in school, then what will happen? I will become employed like somebody's dog. I'll graduate in some field and then I'll take employment as somebody's dog. Now, I was young and I didn't necessarily have my life defined, and I hadn't met the devotees yet. So I was going on, but I was thinking, I'm not ready to just be paid to be somebody's boy. Then I was, so to speak, wandering. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti-lila. I was just wandering, literally from one country to another, from one place to another. Sometimes the conditions were abominable and sometimes they weren't. Then eventually I wound up in India. And when I wound up in India there, I was sent then by the devotees, and it was new, and then I was told, do you want to go to India? And I was thinking, do I want to go to India? I was thinking, well, yes, I want to go to India. I want to be there. So I was sent to be with Srila Prabhupada. Now that. But this was my consideration. I'm not interested in becoming employed. Lagnagani Harshamanti Nilambara Chakravarti Gupte Kichu Kohila Mishare Mahapurushara China Lagne Ange Bina Deki E Taribe Samsare. After calculating the birth moment of Lord Jagannath, pardon me, my mind was a little diverted. After calculating the birth moment of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nilambar Chakravarti privately said to Jagannath Mishra that he saw all the different symptoms of a great personality in both the body and birth moment of the child. Thus he understood that in the future this child would deliver all the three worlds. Aichi Prabhu Sachi Gare Kripai Koila Avatare Je Iha Koraye Shravan Gora Prabhu Doya Moy Tare Hoyena Sadoy Se Payatahara Charan. In this way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu out of his causeless mercy, made his advent in the house of Sachi Devi. Lord Chaitanya is very merciful to anyone who hears this narration of his birth, and thus such a person attains the lotus feet of the Lord. Paya manusha janma jena shune goram guna hena janma tara Vyarta hoila paya amrita duni piye visha gartapani janmiya se kene nahi moila. Anyone who attains a human body but does not take to the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is baffled in his opportunity. Amrita Duni is a flowing river of the nectar of devotional service. If after getting a human body one drinks the water in a poisoned pit of material happiness instead of the water of such a river, it would be better for him not to have lived, but to have died long ago. I'll read that again. But anyone who attains a human body but does not take to the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is baffled in his opportunity. Amrita Duni is a flowing river of the nectar of devotional service. If after getting a human body one drinks the water in a poisoned pit of material happiness instead of the water of such a river, it would be better for him not to have lived but to have died long ago. There's one more verse. I'm going to read that verse and then I'll comment something about that. Okay. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Charya Advaita Chandra Swarup Rupa Raghunatha Das Iha Sabar Sri Charana Shireban Bandi Nijadana Janma Lila Gailo Krishnadas. Taking on my head as my own property the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Acharya Advaita Chandra, Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami, I, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, have thus described the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi-lila, 13th chapter describing the advent of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we later will hear Raghunath Das's father and his uncle. They were extremely rich. They were like billionaires. They would be billionaires in today's society. His father was named Govardhan, and his uncle was named Govardhan and Hiranya Majumadar. That was their name. They had so much money. And his father and uncle, they helped Haridas Thakur, they helped sponsor the Vaishnavas. And I see this in India. Many people are like that. They're very favorable to the devotees, but the idea of their own son or daughter becoming a full-time devotee is abhorrent to them. They want to help the devotees because they're very pious, but at the same time, they don't want their son or daughter to become, take this up as their life. So they're very protective. And Raghunath Das's father was like that. He'd sponsor the devotees and serve the devotees and all that. But he didn't want Raghunath to become a devotee. He didn't want him to become surrendered to Mahaprabhu and with Mahaprabhu. And every time Raghunath Das would try to run away and join Mahaprabhu, he'd always capture him and bringing him back. So then Mahaprabhu described the situation of his uncle and his father. He said, they were very close to my grandfather, Nilambar Chakravarti, and they are almost Vaishnavas. They're almost Vaishnavas. So you don't mind, but I will tell you something about them. And he said, this material world is like a hole in which people pass stool. That's what this material world is like, a hole where people are passing stool. This is Mahaprabhu's description. And he said, your father and your grandfather are like two worms swimming in that stool. He said they live in it, and they think that is very nice, because what they think is their pleasure is actually this mundane world full of stool-like objects. And they are like worms living in that stool. So Mahaprabhu says, but don't mind. I'm just saying this to describe what is the situation. And so we hope that devotees will take to devotional service. And some people, they cannot develop that tendency so well, because ultimately, if you're going to live in terms of devotional service, like Guru Maharaj, he was originally married, but he didn't want to be married. And then when his wife passed away early in the marriage, then he just didn't think about ever going back and becoming married again. He considered that was an impediment, and he wanted to engage himself full-time in devotional service. So if someone has that choice, and most people, they'll just tell you they're interested in getting married, they're interested in going to school and everything like that. And no doubt, if someone doesn't get married and doesn't have a career, then they're going to more or less live, I guess, as brahmachari or a sannyasi, whether they're a white-clad brahmachari or a saffron-clad brahmachari, but in one sense or another, they're going to be full-time engaged in Krishna consciousness, and you can say their future life will be like that. They'll be like, what's it? We cannot even give a translation of that in English, but we'll say something of living as a monk or a monkette. I don't know what the right word is, but as a surrendered soul. As a surrendered soul. And people, but that's not easy to do. No, it's not easy to do, especially when if somebody is young, somebody is young, they naturally are inclined to not live a renounced life. They want to enjoy. So, and we understand that. But at the same time, how am I going to advise somebody, oh, you become a successful worm swimming in a hole full of stool. You'll become very successful at that. How can I advise somebody like that? But, the natural inclination is, people will just tell you frankly, I'm not suited to become a brahmachari. I can't live in the temple. I can't do that. I'm not able to do it. And you can say, yeah, in Kali Yuga, most people can't do that.
Yes, sure.
They can't do that. It's very hard for most people. They want money. What is it? Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. They want
They want to be a doer.
They want to. What?
Are you thinking of Kanda Kamini Pratishtha?
No, I'm thinking of Dharma. They want to Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. They want Krishna consciousness to become like their religion, but not exactly their eternal engagement of their soul. Jivar Swarupoi Krishna Nitya Das. We're the eternal servants of Krishna. Can someone do that in the Grihastha Ashram? Yes, they can do that in the Grihastha Ashram. If that is their inclination, they can do that. They can get married. They can have a family. There's no law against that. There's no law against that. But it also said, you dropped something. It is also said that, that advancement in that situation is much slower. But it's a natural inclination. If you ask most people, do you want to live in the temple? Do you want to live in the temple? They'll say no, I don't want to. Because they don't want it, they feel it's beyond my capacity to do that. And what it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushanam sahasreshu yaschid kadadit siddhaye yaditam api siddhanam kaschim mam veditatvada. Out of many millions of persons, one person may actually be very serious about devotional service. And we want to preach to everybody. We want to engage everyone in the community and everyone in the world in Krishna consciousness according to their degree of surrender of what they can do. We ourselves, we're trying to surrender. We're all trying to surrender. So we can't doubt anybody's sincerity, and we can't criticize them. Unless they're openly cheaters. Unless they're openly cheaters who are trying to rob or cheat the devotees, then we may do so. But we try not to doubt anybody's sincerity. We're not thinking that people are thieves. We're like that. So, but this is our consideration. But we think, out of many thousands of people, someone may become a fully surrendered devotee. And we see people like that. You know, you see persons, they don't want to get married. They don't want to have a family. They don't want to have a career. They want to surrender themselves. And that's nice. But in Kali Yuga, most people can serve the mission as grihastas. And I remember one time I don't make a habit out of reading the Bible. But I did one time, and I read, you know, teachings of Paul, and it was interesting to me because Paul is the only, what do they call it, disciple? What's the person? Christ, what do you call them? His apostles. He's the only apostle who didn't meet directly to Christ. And he's the only apostle who wanted to take Christianity out of Israel. He wanted to take it all over the world. And he's interesting in that respect because you consider he's a, you know, I don't know too much about him, but I know he had that ambition and he wanted to take Christianity to Rome, etc. And one thing he said I liked, he said, if you can be like me, he said, if you can be like me, that's very good, meaning that you're full-time surrendered and you're not interested in anything except the service of the Lord. He said, if you can be like me, that's very good because we need workers. We need dedicated people. He said, but if you can't be, then okay, you can take a wife and you can serve the Lord, but you should choose a wife who's favorable, you should choose a wife who's also a devotee. I'm translating it. Who's also a devotee. But he says, if you can't do that, then at least choose a wife who may not be a devotee, but who is favorable to the devotees, who won't interfere with your advancement. And I thought that, yeah, you can see. I thought that was very nice advice. You know, I read that. Wasn't too much interest in so much else, but I liked that advice. And then people came to him and they said, well, we go to the houses of people, and sometimes these people they offer us food. You know, we're preaching to them, they offer us food in their house. But they have in their house idols. And we're thinking we shouldn't eat food that's offered to an idol. You know, like, you know, they're pagans. They had idols in their houses. And they said, we are thinking we shouldn't do that because we should not eat food that's offered to an idol. And then Paul said, I'm not interested so much in what goes into a person's mouth. I'm interested in what comes out of their mouth. So he more or less told them, you can do that. If you're preaching, you can go to people's houses. Now they're more lenient. We're not... and he said, I'm not interested in what goes into their mouth. I want to know what they're saying, what's coming out of their mouth. I'm interested that they become devotional. Anyway, I appreciated that. And I still feel that there are gradations. But ideally, I'm not going to train somebody to become a successful worm in stool. That's not my ambition, is not to help somebody. But if somebody If somebody wants to get married, okay, we'll go, we'll bless their marriage, we'll do whatever. We'll go to their wedding ceremony. We won't go into the room where they're drinking at their wedding ceremony. There was actually somebody who got married in the community, and in one room they were serving liquor because, you know, his relatives were coming, and that's what they think a marriage is. So anyway, they were doing that. Wasn't going into that room, but, you know, it's just considerations. We're dealing with the West, and in the West, men and women, they mix freely, all these other things. And people come up to me and they ask me, can I do this kind of work? Can I do that kind of work? And I think, that kind of work is abominable. It's pure garbage. And I don't even like that you're asking me to do this kind of work. I don't like it. But sometimes I'll just say, you know, do whatever you want. I don't care. You're determined to do it anyway, so why ask me? Why ask me? If you're just going to do whatever you want, then go ahead, do what you want. You can do whatever you want. If you want to go to hell, you can go to hell. That's your business. I'm not going to put chains on your arms and legs. But anyway, kind of my happy conclusion today. But today we're hearing about Mahaprabhu's divine appearance. Very auspicious. And this is the beginning of the divine Leela. Okay. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama.
Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama.
Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatha Bhatta Raguna. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raguna. Chai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jao Ite Vignana Shabishta Puran. Chai Gosai Charmui Taradas. Kastavar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras. Kader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Janame Janame More Abhilas. Jai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naradamodan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Jai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmamacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishordas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premasi Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Vishvabaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Kusham Ashram Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Tilak Neriya Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhan Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Kalandi Yamuna Ju Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
Bhakti Maharaj Ki Jai.